back, and if he's not, then uh, you know, you might be inactive again.
Sorry, I'm going to pause things here because our stream crashed in the middle of that.
Oh
Uh,
no.
so I'm going to have to probably turn this into an editing point for Miko, which is unfortunate. We might want to just hit that question again. Let me make
Okay.
sure
Yeah.
things are
Start
back
it all
here.
over.
Um, hold on. Seems like we're back on my end. I don't know why I'm typing it in, not just asking.
I don't see it. It looks like you. It says you're offline.
Refresh,
Oh,
refresh, refresh.
let's try it. Hmm.
See,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
on
There you
YouTube.
go.
Okay. So what about YouTube? Are we back YouTube? End. Okay, we're back on YouTube too. Okay. We're
Why
just
don't
gonna
we
what?
start all over?
The
Just
entire podcast all over?
yeah. Why create an editing point for Miko when we can
Uh,
just like start?
all
No,
right.
listen. I'm not saying we have to. I mean, just you did the intro, and that was it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It takes a certain amount of energy to get the intro out though. Now I gotta
Oh,
restart.
all right. Never
No,
mind
no,
then.
no, no, no. We'll do it again.
Forget it, Miko.
Nope.
You're gonna work.
Nope. Back to the
Tell me you're
loading
gonna keep
screen. Here we go.
keep.
Here we go. 5, 4, blah, blah. Here we go. Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer all of your Detroit Lions questions. It is, Wednesday, week 4. We had 2 Cleveland Browns week, but we got a lot to talk about, from Terrion Arnold to QB spies to personnel decisions. My name, by the way, is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer at Pride of Detroit. With me, as always, is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit. You can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. His name's Erik Schlitt. Erik, how are we doing for the first time I'm asking you this question?
We're doing good. Apologize for the voice, battling a little bit of a cold, but as I've definitely never said before, this is winning cures all, right?
That's right.
So
I've heard that plenty of times. It feels like maybe even like 5 minutes ago I heard something similar. But anyways, I'm flying through this intro because it's definitely not the second time I'm doing it, and I want to just get to the questions. You guys just listen to get to the questions. You don't need the little
oh
silly
yeah.
banter at the top. So let's start with a good friend, Talking Grit. Has a question about personnel. Asks, what was your take on why Craig Reynolds, and Mekhi Wingo were inactive for the Ravens game?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was something that when it came across the inactives an hour and a half before last game, I was a tick surprised about, right? I believe with Reynolds, it just comes down to the fact that they preferred Jacob Saylor's ability to do kick returns over Reynolds' ability to, he was in a blocking role, right? My guess is that they thought someone could fill in for Craig easier on special teams than they could to get a different type of kick returner up. So I believe that's probably just a special teams decision. With Wingo, it seems to be more along the lines of they were really leaning towards bigger, bulkier interior
Yeah.
defensive linemen, right? A heavy usage for Reeder, Williams, and Lopez. All three got quite a bit of playing time, especially early when they were really trying to shut down the run.
Yep.
And then it varied as the game went on, but stylistically, I think they wanted to see what they had in Lacey as well. They used him a lot more at the 4-eye. So you had O'Connor start at the 4-eye, Lacey come in at the 4-eye, and Wingo can contribute there. But I just believe it was a matter of we wanted to get bulkier. Maybe Lacey had a better week in practice, and so he gets the nod over Wingo, who was one of the most active, defenders the week prior. So I don't think he's
Yeah.
done. I don't think Lacey's necessarily jumped him, but he did for this game plan.
Yeah, that's going to be the tricky thing with this, is not to overreact week to week in terms of who's up, who's down, and who's getting a lot of playing time, who's not. It's part of what makes this team valuable, and and certain players valuable is their versatility and their strengths and weaknesses. Even a guy that we're all praising this week, Al-Qadim Muhammad, he didn't start this game. He didn't play a lot. I
Right.
think he may not have played at all, I think, in the first 2 series.
2.5.
And
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, 2.5 series. You're right.
that probably speaks to some of the lack of confidence maybe in his ability to stop the run. Like you said, when the Lions were committing a little bit more of those bigger bodies, to the defense early in the game when the Ravens were running the football, or at least trying to run the football. Actually, they were pretty successful early, at least the first drive.
Right.
A lot of that was without El-Kadin Muhammad on the field. In preference for guys like Tyler Lacey or, guys that they trust a little bit more in the interior. Obviously excluding Mekhi Wingo, who's a guy that I think we're excited about some of the pass rush stuff that he can do, some of the explosiveness he provides on the inside, but I think he still kind of has to prove himself on some of the early down stuff, and I think there's no secret that was a focus this week.
Yeah, look, I think Wingo's going to play this week against the Browns. I think he suits this style of defensive game plan a little bit better. So I'm expecting Wingo to be active. You're right with the Muhammad stuff because they were using a lot of Pat O'Connor at the 4 and then bringing Derek Barnes down and keeping him kind of like on the edge setter.
Yep.
And when that wasn't working, Kelvin adjusted. And he started dipping Derek back a little bit more, started realigning the front, and that's eventually when Muhammad came on and he started just playing well, and they stuck with it. And so it was a shift. You saw it happen on that third drive, but the Ravens only had 3 drives the whole first half, so it was kind of a late first half adjustment. But I think it was necessary, and I do think it ended up helping out. As the game wore on.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to add with the Reynolds stuff. I guess it's certainly notable because even beyond like the special team stuff, they must have at least, to me, this move shows at least a little bit of confidence that Vaki has made strides as a running back, right? For him to essentially be the RB3 in the game, you'd think. Obviously, you're hoping you never need to get to your RB3 necessarily on offense, but we'll see what Vaki's status is after this lingering growing stuff that's been going on with him.
A lot of soft tissue injuries are connected, right? You have a hamstring, you favor that hamstring, and then it makes you more susceptible in other areas. It's very likely that his hamstring led to the groin injury because he's either not, the hamstring is either not fully healed or he's favoring it differently. And exactly. And so my guess is they're connected.
Yeah. All right. Next question here. Also kind of personnel related. J_X asks, is Tristan Colon now the backup center? Saw Kingsley inactive on Monday and Colon was active. Do you believe Kingsley's roster spot is in jeopardy since Lions will have guys coming back from PUP and IR? I think the answer is yes, right? He's the backup center.
Yeah, I'm not ruling anything out. It certainly appeared that way. Again, this could be a special teams decision because Cologne was playing special teams.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, there's a trust level that they have with Cologne that I think Kingsley is still earning, right?
Yeah.
And so, Cologne has a lot of experience in the NFL. He has experience playing guard and center, and he's got multiple starts at both positions. And so, and you could see it in training camp. Like they trusted him to do do his job, and he delivered. And Iguakin has a really good ceiling, and that's why I think they like him so much. And if they could not get rid of him, I think that would be their ideal preference, right?
Sure.
I do think there's a couple other spots of guys that have also been inactive, like all 3 weeks, that maybe might be the first on the chopping block before Kingsley. But certainly if it comes down to needing a roster spot, if Kingsley has lost his spot to Cologne, he does become vulnerable.
Yeah, it's hard to say, who these guys are going to replace when they come back. Sometimes it might be the same roster position. So if you're talking Ali McNeil, it might be a defensive lineman. If you're talking Malcolm Rodriguez, I don't know if you really need, what are they at? 6 linebackers right now? 7? Are they already at 7?
They're at 6. No, they're at 6.
So, they've kept 7 before. It wouldn't be outlandish to keep 7, but it could be a linebacker.
I thought Zach Cunningham was in trouble before last game.
Yeah, right. Now he seems pretty solid.
Boy, is he has found himself a niche, right? Oh boy.
And the thing is too, like if you were to think, well, okay, let me look further down, and you see, not Pittman, 53. Nowoski.
Nowoski.
Nowoski made a big play on Monday too.
He had a sack. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no, it's not Nowoski. I
yeah,
feel very confident it's not going to be him. It's good. Yeah, they're going to have to get creative
yeah.
when
But
they start bringing these guys back for
but the
sure.
thing that Dan Campbell says often, and it's the grim reality of the situation, is a lot of times these sort of things figure themselves out,
Yeah,
and by that
unfortunately.
you mean injury. Someone
Well, and
is
that's
likely to get injury. I
you've
mean, the
already
Lions
put two
have an open
guys on.
spot right now, right?
Right, they do. And they already have two more. They've already added two guys to IR as since in the first 3 weeks,
Right.
right? So inevitably, guys end up there, and yeah, they got a spot to play around with. I don't. It'd be interesting if they didn't fill it and then just kind of waited,
Yeah.
because they are eligible to start bringing some of those injury list guys back. But
After
again,
next
with the
week.
ramp up, yeah, after week 4, or after the Browns game.
Correct.
But what gets tricky is the ramp up period and all that stuff. Like you'd have to feel really confident someone is close.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah, if you're not going to fill a spot. So we'll
All
see.
right. Let's talk some QB spy. Phenoms Wow, our good friend here on Twitch and on Twitter says. So Kelvin Shepard used a spy with success against Lamar Jackson after vehemently denying using a spy works. Is he evolving, or was that just protecting AG's philosophy earlier? Let me hold up.
Yeah.
I just want to put a reminder of what exactly he said,
Oh yeah.
because
Okay.
vehemently denying using a spy works is a very good description of
Oh,
how
that's
he
accurate.
approached it. He said
Yes.
back in 2022, so this was 3 years ago, mind you. He
Mhm.
said, "quote You show me the tape where the spy stuff works. What you do is waste a defender when you operate like that, and you're playing prevent defense in a sense. Show me where a spy has tackled Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray in open space. So to each his own. Whatever you believe in, I've seen that get torched on the college level and at the NFL level."
All right. I it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Okay. So I do think he's evolving. And I do think he was probably protecting AG. But I want to speak on the evolution a little bit because I do think he still believes in that philosophy that he was just so adamant about because he didn't run a traditional spy the way that most teams run it. Like
Mm-hmm.
most teams, you have your 4 defensive linemen and then you're just your one spy. The Lions were sometimes blitzing or attacking with just 3, and they would drop that fourth that would end up being like the spy. That's how Nowoski got his sack, right?
Yeah.
So technically, he's not putting his secondary in that prevent difficult spot by removing a guy. He's actually removing a guy from the front. He's just not attacking that fourth guy, and that fourth guy's just kind of sitting there. What he's confident in here is that he's going to get pressure with those 3, and he was because at that point, Lamar was in a passing situation, right? So they knew that the Ravens were going to pass. And when they knew the Ravens were going to pass, they could attack, ears pinned back all the way, go after him with 3. And then the fourth guy just kind of sat there and hung. And it was almost always a linebacker, too. So, and you can see this a little bit in the snap counts. As well as they essentially just started playing with like 3 defensive linemen and a linebacker as their 4-man front, and that linebacker ended up being the spy. And so it does not completely go against what he said in 2022, but a little bit. It's an evolution of how the spy is deployed. So
Right.
I do think it's a little bit of a whole mix of things that are happening. Um, but I tell you, it worked. It because
Sure,
you saw
sure did.
Anzalone, and he didn't just do it with one. Like he would sometimes
Yes.
drop 2 linebackers, and then they would have coverage responsibilities plus also you're lingering as kind of a de facto spy as well. And so you had these. It's an evolution of how a spy is deployed, and so yeah, let's call it evolved.
Yeah, I think you're bailing him out a little bit here.
Oh, I'm trying because I like him. Um, but yeah, but I mean, like it's not a traditional way to use it, and but it, like I said,
Right. It wasn't like the line's just like, okay, Alex Anzalone, you're going to follow Lamar Jackson around the entire game, right? It was.
oh yeah,
I
no, it
think
was situational.
I think what made it particularly effective one is that, like you said, you had them in obvious passing downs for almost the entire second half. They barely ran the ball at all in the second half. But two, you just kept switching up responsibilities, right? It wasn't just
Mhm.
the same person being that, like, because the question with the spy all week we got was, okay, who's going to be the spy? Is it going to be Alex? Is it going to be Brian Branch? Is it going to be? Turns out it was a little bit of everybody. Turns out we were
Yeah.
all the spies. The spies were the friends we made along the way. But that's what made it so effective. Is you didn't know who was going to pass rush. You didn't know who was going to rush up the A gap or close in off the edge. Sometimes it was Derek who was the spy. Sometimes it was Alex. Sometimes it was Nowoski. They mix it up. Sometimes it's Jack. And I think that is that. I guess I don't know how other teams utilize spy. I haven't seen a lot of it here, so I don't know what it traditionally looks like. But I will say that I think the versatility of your linebackers, the thing that this coaching staff has been talking about for years, is we want our linebackers cross trained to be able to do anything. And in this instance, they kind of had them all doing a little bit of everything. And with that, you can designate anyone you want to be that spy, and that just confuses the lineman. It confuses Lamar Jackson, and it makes them incredibly versatile and challenging to block against.
What was most impressive with their linebacker usage in this spy format was that the linebackers stayed square. A lot of times when Lamar gets going, the linemen or linebackers will turn and try and run, and then that allows him to cut back, and then you can't adjust it at the same pace that he does because he's Lamar. But they stayed square, they stayed patient, and when you got within a certain range of him, then you attacked and dove at his ankles, and
Yep.
like that's how Barnes got it. Nowoski, he just as soon as he got close, Nowoski was just like on him like a literal lion. Like
Yeah.
he just was like boom and around him. It was impressive. So, but I mean, that's the stuff they love about Nowoski, and he gives them Sam and Mike range. Plus, you add in that kid's not going. That kid's he's gonna keep developing. I'm excited to see where he goes.
And if we're talking QB spy and containing Lamar Jackson, extra shout out to Malik Cunningham this week for being the scout team quarterback and
Game
very much.
ball.
I mean, I loved what Dan said about him. I was like, he's like, on Wednesday, he had the practices of his life. That dude was trouble. He was putting our defense in a bind, and then just like the defense slowly adjusted as the week came on, and then Monday night comes and they really shut the door on Lamar in a way that I don't know if anyone thought the Lions defense was capable of.
It's a blueprint for Ravens' upcoming opponents, and they can't be happy about
We're
that.
getting into blueprint territory. That's harkening back to the Matt Patricia.
It is.
The Matt Patricia era. This is how you stop the Rams offense.
Look, and look, if you want to talk like what else they did was they ran. Okay, so in the first half they ran a lot more man, and then the second half they ran a lot more zone.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the numbers kind of play that out. We've seen the man coverage numbers drop each week, and the zone coverage numbers increase each week, and they're continuing to trend in that direction. And it's affording them the ability to keep things in front of them when they have that lead, and it's proving very effective. They've done well with it the last 2 weeks.
I do wonder though if we're going to see a little bit of slide back again
Oh, we're
against
gonna
a Browns team that you don't
we're
need
gonna
to be facing.
you're gonna see a ton of man against the Browns.
Yes, that's what I'm
Like a ton.
saying.
Yes, yeah. This is going to be a one-off, right? Where it's going to be like, oh, like they've been trending in this direction, and then now you go against the Browns, and it's like, oh, everyone's playing man because the Browns offense only lives within 5 to 15 yards, right? Like that's all they play, and they don't get separation, and so you're gonna run a ton of man against the Browns for sure.
Okay, let's talk a little scheme on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm gonna ask you a question that I'm going to try to get you to be concise, but it's not a concise topic at all. It comes from a Oaxaca Lions fan who asks, "Can you give a more or less concise explanation of the Lions' run game scheme, including blocking scheme, zone versus duo, or maybe zone versus gap? Maybe makes a little bit more sense to pull it out a little bit. And what are all the secrets to their success?" So Let's start with the very basic like zone versus gap. If you
Well,
want to quickly
let's
explain
start
that. Okay, go ahead.
before I can even go into that. I want to talk about the fact that what the secret to their success is that they can
They
do
do
all
everything.
of them at a high level.
Right.
It
Yeah.
really is. Like they can show you one look and and then go to another.
Right.
They can try one, and if you're covering that off, then they can shift to it. And
Yeah.
they that's exactly what they did in this game.
Right.
We saw zone looks early and then a shift to duo. And when duo worked, they just smashed the crap out of them with duo over and over and over and over and over. And a big hat tip to Hank Fraley for that, man,
No
because
doubt.
I'm sure once he figured it out, they leaned on that. So, all right. So, basic concepts. With zone, you are trying to move as a unit directionally in one way. You get your head on one side of the defensive lineman that you're trying to control, and you're trying to run them off and push them into the direction that you want to go. The running back then is headed in that direction, heads towards a gap choice where he's going to
Right.
have
He
one
gets the
gap.
choice.
He gets a front side gap or a back side
Yeah.
gap, and he can pick which one that he wants. And that's your typical kind of standard, like outside zone. Inside zone is again, it's similar, except you're just doing it on the inside without a lot of movement. When you start running gap, you're talking about pulling your linemen. And the Lions pull their interior linemen and Penei Sewell. They will
Yep.
pull all of them.
Yep.
Not a lot of teams have a Penei Sewell, so they can't do what they do with him. But the gap is essentially like you're you're blocking down towards a guy who's expecting to get engaged with the guy in front of him, and instead he's getting engaged with the guy from his side. And then when that block gets down, the guy that was in front of him now pulls out of his gap and then goes into a different gap.
Yep.
So it's kind of like how we see defensive lines stunting and shifting all around. It's the offensive line's version of that. And with gap, it works really well when you have good skill
Athletes.
blockers who can, yeah, you have to have athletes,
Yep.
absolutely. But if you have like good blocking tight ends that can do crack blocks and
Yep.
stuff like that, it makes gap running even easier. And the Lions are loaded with those, right? So they'll crack down with a tight end on a defensive end, so the defensive end doesn't see it coming. Pull Panay out, and now you have Panay up against a linebacker or a defensive back, and that's a win for the Lions. And so the gap is about displacement in disguise. And duo is essentially what it sounds. You're running like double teams, okay, on one primary defender in front of you. And when those double teams shift that guy off, the one of the two duos, one of the two pairs pulls off and then takes a secondary level block, typically the Mike linebacker. And then you are running towards the duo, and you're essentially trying to create an alley of blocks. So if you run it like what the Lions did against Baltimore was they ran a duo tackle guard duo block where the tackle and the guard both hit the nose tackle, and then the center has to hit down on a three technique to create that gap. Then as they move up and out and create the gap, the guard peels off of the nose tackle and hits the linebacker, and now you've created 2-3 yards of space. And then when you get into that gap, then you have a two-way go where you can either choice right or choice left depending on what you're looking at from the opponents. And then that's what they did against the Ravens. They
Yes.
just started, and they did it on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, wildly successful on the right. The right side was they were Ratlich and Sewell were just monsters,
It's crazy.
and so they just did it over and over. And it's I don't think that was the concept to start. Like I said, we saw a lot more zone
Zone. Yeah.
to start, but when they got duo working, it was it was teach tape on how to run duo. It was awesome.
The one thing that's interesting to me is kind of the trajectory throughout the season so far, because and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it felt like when it comes to zone versus gap, there was a lot more variance early in the season. And because of some of the miscommunications, because of the lack of chemistry stuff, it feels like they in game 2, more zone stuff. More zone stuff because you're just blocking ahead. There's less like you have to do this and you have to get that. You like less working together in terms of chemistry and more just, hey, let's go block the guy in front of us and double team and all that sort of stuff. But then this last third game, because there's a little bit more duo, because there was a little bit moving away from some of the zone stuff, it felt like, okay, now that we've kind of had our base settled, now we can start adding to the foundation and being a little bit different and more creative and more. I know duo isn't quite gap stuff, but like it feels like they're building towards more gap stuff again.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, they're going to they're going to scheme a different approach for each different opponent,
Right.
right? And so you have like against the Browns upcoming, you're going to have again more stunts and stuff like that, but like they're very aggressive. And so one of the ways that you can be aggressive is to run certain rushing plays to try and slow down their upfield momentum. Maybe it's you have quick passing outlets to try and slow that up, or maybe you're running your own type of gap to try and like catch them off guard and push them, use their own aggressiveness to push them out of the way. Like there's ways to do it, and they'll have a game plan, and then they'll probably have a backup game plan to that as well. And the Browns are incredibly difficult to run against. At the same time, the Lions are a team that has an arsenal of options, and they seem to be getting better at all of them right now.
All right, let's fit one more question in here before we take a break. We're going to stick with some run talk. Tom R., one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, asks, would it be more effective as a change of pace to start Knuckles, Dave Montgomery, more power and a little bit less speed, and get the defense accustomed to the style and then bring in Sonic later? I think the contrast would be harder for a defense to adjust to than the inverse.
I think they start Jameer because he's such a handful, right? Like he's so difficult to match up against. Just the speed element that he has and the other speed components, it puts them on their heels right off the bat. And I do agree. Traditionally, it makes a lot of sense to hit him with power and then catch him with the change of pace. That's a little bit faster. That's a very traditional approach to running, and it's traditional because it works. But again, the Lions are, I think, leaning on trying to just put you on your heels right off the bat, and then make you not know, make you fumble around with how to adjust to that, and then start punching you in the mouth with Montgomery after.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have a preference one way or the who's starting where. Part of it is because they use these guys a little bit more interchangeably than maybe you
Sure.
think. There were
More
a
than
lot of
we allude to, yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of short yardage situations where Dave Montgomery was on the field and they'd pull him off and put Jameer in, and it's
And
because of a couple things.
I was going
Like
to say third down, it's the same way. You'd think it's Jameer, and then Montgomery comes out because he's so good.
right, because both of those guys can run through the tackles and both of those can convert on short yardage situations, and for different reasons though, right? Because Montgomery is more of a physical, he's going to break more tackles, but Jameer's going to hit the hole quicker. If the hole's only going to be open for a little bit, against like a Browns team where if you're going to get a gap, it's not going to be there for long. You're probably going to want Jameer to run through that gap more than you're going to want David. But David also proved he could be pretty explosive too. I mean, maybe not
Yeah.
long-term speed. He sure would have liked to house that 70 whatever yarder. But what I really liked from David on that play is that he was patient early on, but then when he found the hole, he exploded through it. He's got some short area quickness as well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they both stress the defense in different ways, but in similar ways in a lot of ways too. So I don't know. I guess I'm just not getting that hung up on who starts and who doesn't. I think the Lions can be a physically brutally tough team with Jameer in the game. And I think they can be a diverse, high weaponized game with David Montgomery in the game too. So I don't know. I know it's different, and when we get a David Montgomery game like we did, feels like, okay, he should get the ball more, but then we get a Jameer Gibbs game and you're like, why is David Montgomery out there? Gibbs is our explosive play guy. I'm happy giving them all their opportunities whenever the mood strikes, I guess.
You were at the game, so you might have missed this on the broadcast, but they brought up the fact that Gibbs gets to the line of scrimmage faster than any back in the NFL. And so that lends
Yeah.
in to what you were just saying.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little Terrion Arnold. We'll talk some Dan Campbell. We'll talk a little bit about the Browns game ahead when we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. How we doing? Sorry about the little technical difficulties at the top of the show. I'm not sure why that happened. Probably because I'm working on Wi-Fi and have been forever, and Wi-Fi is unreliable in its connection. But hey, we're here. And apparently there's already a program pulling clips from our first 5 minutes that didn't happen. Okay, let me get to alerts, and then if you guys have questions, I see some rolling in, keep them coming. We'll get to some of your questions. Let me scroll down here. Captain James Kirk, thank you for 50 months, says just finishing up the POD cast in time for the mailbag. Let's go. Makes my drive into Wisconsin so much better. Throws an FTP in the chat as well. happy to sit alongside you for your road trip, assuming it's a road trip. Oh, you said drive. So yeah, it's a road trip. Lions Blood, I missed this one yesterday, I think. Lions Blood 20 if you're here. Thank you for the 50 months. Says it's my golden anniversary. LFG. Captain James Kirk 10-bit says, Erik, looking forward to your leap, your Lions leap. Now that's something you don't get a reference to because we were talking about potential Movember goals.
Oh,
And they want both of us to potentially try the Jared Goff Lions
the
leap.
wall?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Obviously, we'd have to run that up the chain to see if they'd let us do that and try.
Yeah, we'd have to get permission to get on the field. Right now, I don't think we we
hope,
wouldn't be able to do
and
that.
this would also require your permission, is that we would jump into your family sitting in that section. Just to provide a little extra motivation,
That would be okay. First of all, you get no help on them carrying you into the stands. Okay, that's one. um, Two, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know when we'd have to do this, like, and how I would even get them
Yeah, it'd probably be an
into
off-season
that
thing,
spot.
right?
Oh, I don't know.
They just let us into Ford Field in between, I don't know, what monster cars shows. They still do those? I think they do. Anyways, we'll see. I'm gonna try to run that one up the chain in the next couple weeks here. Light Horse, 35 months, subscribe to the channel, says love the grit from Monday Night Football. Heck yeah, dude. It's a real fun game. 30 Girl, thank you for the 2 months, says the stream is struggling like the Ravens struggled against our Lions. True facts. Except we're not struggling in the second half. Horizon, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Pug Fan, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Chase Sitkowski, thank you for becoming a member over on YouTube. Appreciate that. We don't get a ton of membership alerts during these streams. We know we do have a handful of members, and we very much appreciate them. They just usually resubscribe or remember. I don't know. What do you call it when you re-up as a member? You don't call it a remember.
Continue your subscription.
Your membership.
Okay.
Either way, appreciate it, Chase. D Lions for Life, 19 months subscribed on Twitch, says, was that Jack's best game as a pro?
I wrote that. I wrote arguably his best game in my snap counts review, and then I took it out and I was like, I need to rewatch just to make sure before I write something like that. But when I was watching live, it sure felt like it was one of his better games.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was his best, but I thought he played very well.
I hope he's okay with that. I didn't see any of
His
the
lip?
laceration stuff.
Oh, it got like a face mask, like it got jammed, and then he got cut, and
Apparently it was like
hot.
very serious. Like
Yeah, like he hockey playered it though. Like he just was like,
I
put
was
crap on me, and away we go.
I was told third hand that someone had asked him if he had to get stitches, and like, no, it might require like facial surgery.
You know what? Believe it's that's not as bad as it sounds.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because I split my nose and it was like a cross, it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it split this way and that way, so it was like an X.
Right.
Um, and I had to have a plastic surgeon like
Right.
put it back together, but it was just it. I didn't notice any difference other than the fact that he did a good enough job that there wasn't really a scar,
Yeah.
right? Like, so like having like it's sometimes with skin stuff, it's it sounds worse than like what it actually is. It's
Right.
just a special type
And I
of
mean, Dan was
whatever.
joking about it last night or during yesterday's press conference. He was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
the guys in the huddle were loving it. He's just squirting blood out of his face." I'm like, Jesus. Was
yeah.
that yesterday that he said that, or was that during 97.1 today? I don't remember.
That was yesterday.
Okay, that was yesterday.
He might. I mean, I missed today's, but yeah. But that's look. And if Jack ends up with a scar in his face, like he ain't gonna care,
Right? No, I mean that adds to the lore of him. I think
right?
in a
Right?
meaningful way. But going back to his game, like I actually didn't think he was playing too well through the first two games of the season. And so for him to bounce back in a big way like that was big. And I mean, what's the one thing that I've been saying all offseason that he needs to start doing to really grab the national attention? Make splash plays. And getting to Lamar Jackson and forcing a fumble on fourth down certainly qualifies for that.
Yeah. What the the lack of hesitation once they were within like a couple yards of Lamar from all the linebackers was telling. Like it wasn't like they were patient, 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 but then it was like it was like they had like a little like if you, with you're within two yards of me, I have to my job is to just attack.
Yeah.
And so like they
Yeah.
waited and waited and waited and then it was like boom.
Yep.
It was a good plan. It really was.
Yeah. Um, Someone asked what were the percentage of Lions fans at the game. It was kind of hard to tell, because there was so much like black and purple. The seats were purple, and so it was kind of hard to tell. I would say it's a little bit less than some of the other road games I've been to, which makes sense. It's a primetime game. They're debut. They're wearing their black uniforms. It's probably a high cost game, I would imagine for anybody. But I do want to. So our good friend Nikhil Mehta, unfortunately didn't get a chance to meet up with him, but he was there. We were both kind of running late, getting into the stadium. But I'll tell you exactly what he said. Says, "Hope you had a great time in Baltimore. I haven't seen that many teams walk in and take over in prime time like that. Any teams, honestly. The fan base is understandably imploding, but I'm more impressed with the Lions than I am disheartened by the Ravens. So part of that's about the team, but I think part of that was about the fan base too. So I would say a good showing, but probably no more than like 10-15%.
Hmm.
Where was I in alerts? Grandpa, QB, 21 months, says, if Ratledge gets too good at guard, can Frazier be groomed at center for the future?
Ooh, I don't know. He was a tackle that converted into guard, and I think he's a little too. He's not long enough to play tackle in the NFL. So I bet they cross train him just to see, but
Right.
I'm not banking on that. But
Yeah.
I also am completely fine leaving Ratledge at right guard forever.
But I mean, we'll see. Obviously, plans change, but it felt like going
Yeah.
into the season, the plan was, all right, you're just going to be a guard this year. We're going to move you to center in the future. If he balls out enough, we'll see. I mean, it'll probably depend on how comfortable they're with him at guard. It probably depends on how comfortable they view him at, all the extra center duties that I'm sure they're like at least asking him about in
Yeah.
meetings. Like, okay, if the defense is showing this front, what do you do? What do you switch into? All those sort of things. That I'm sure they're peppering him with those questions, and they'll see how far he mentally develops there. Might also depend on the draft, right? You might get a guy that's a pure center in the draft there at the second round, and you love him. Maybe you draft him and you say, all right, Ratledge is going to play right guard for us forever.
I'm never going to be against having starter level offensive linemen coming off the bench. Like, because you always have
Sure.
a need for that, right? And if Frazier is good enough to play, but he's only spot playing, and I look, Let them try and win, try and beat a job, try and get a job. Like
Yep.
that's how Mahogany got in, right?
Yep.
Had an opportunity, seized it, balled out those couple of games. Now he's got a starting job. Frazier will get that same opportunity.
Sammy Boys, thank you for the 31 months. Says, what a win. Let's go. All right. And we are caught up. Appreciate all the support, y'all, either on Twitch or YouTube. Always appreciate it. There were a couple questions I wanted to get to, and now I'm trying to remember where they were. I did not. I got bailed out because where I parked my car for the trip, they took my keys. They needed to move my car around a little bit, so I couldn't have lost my keys because I didn't have them. But thank you for asking. Wheat played in 2 snaps very late in the game. Downgrade. That's it. It may have been on the very last drive, the whatever you call it.
When they went in the prevent.
Yeah. We were actually just talking about that. Q note. Erik wants to watch the Manning cast of the game. I have no interest in watching the Manning cast of the game. I still haven't actually done a pure pre-watch period. I was traveling most of yesterday, then I jumped on the pod for 3 hours or whatever it was yesterday.
Yeah, and with you gone and them us being on a short week, I had to do all of Monday's articles and publish, and then all of Tuesday's articles, and then the staff was throwing articles left and right at me, and I was like, oh. So I was very overwhelmed yesterday, and then by the time I got settled in, I started looking at the Brown stuff, because the Brown stuff is I got an article to do tomorrow morning, so I gotta get it done.
Crumbs Oliver asked, in some interviews, coaches have talked about the offense being a collaborative effort. In Monday's game, Hank had a play card and was talking in his headset. Does he call the run parts of the game?
Yes, more or less. He's at least giving suggestions like, this is what I want. This is what's going to work.
Right.
And I think he deserves a lot of credit for the adjustments in the run game, and then probably just like hit it over and over and over. And it really did. Like, it was the Ravens did not have an answer, and so there was no reason to stop. The duo was just it was working.
I think we talked about this in the PODD video, but the Maryland Eye stuff, right? When I asked Jared about the Maryland Eye stuff, he pointed to 2 coaches. Like he said, I don't know. They were just in the playbook. I don't know the idea behind it. He pointed to 2 coaches about it, and neither of them were John Morton. One was Hank Fraley. The other was kind of interesting, was Tyler Roll, tight ends coach. And I understand, like, maybe he said that because there were tight ends in the backfield a lot of the times, at least one every time of those 3 back looks. But it does make me wonder how much Tyler Roll is involved in the run game and how it's established and how they're utilizing it. But we do know that Fraley is the run game coordinator, right? And I guess I can't speak to whether did Fraley have the headset on and a play card in the past before this year?
I don't know.
I don't really know the answer to that question. Now, of course, now that we're hyping up Hank Fraley, chat is filling with, is he gone next year? Are we going to lose him?
Okay, so while you were asking that question about Roll, I Googled North Dakota State Maryland Power I formation, and an article comes up showing clips of North Dakota State running the Maryland I. So it was from 2020 when Roll would have been their OC.
Interesting. Maybe. I mean, I'm certain Johnny Moe is going to get asked that this week when we talk to him tomorrow. And I'm sure because I'm going to ask it if no one else does.
I want to look at it just to see what it has.
Good. I might ask. I mean, we talked to Scotty today in a little bit. Might ask Scotty.
They ran, I don't know. With the college numbers, it's impossible. It's 30, 44, and 4. That's I don't know.
Those are the jersey numbers?
Those are the jersey numbers of the guys that were lined up in the Maryland I. Oh. So, like, I don't know. 30 and 44 could be, like, fullbacks or could be running backs or tight ends, with college, you never know. But it's there.
Um, you have to ask Hanker. Scotty doesn't know. Is that? Did you just want to say Scotty doesn't know? Is that why you said that?
Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah. Don't tell Scotty. Okay. Well done. Well done.
Okay. Yesterday, I quote tweeted a Hank Fraley thing, and I said, what metal should they make a statue out of? And someone quote tweeted it and said, honey buns. And I'm like, that's the perfect thing because that's his name. That's his nickname, right?
Honey buns. I might take us to the Super Bowl.
Very
now
smart.
Or wait another week. It's not how you play in September, y'all. That is why part of the reason I sent out that tweet that got a lot of people mad in the middle of the game, where I'm like, I'm trying to convince myself that no matter what happens, I'm going to be happy with how the Lions played in this game. Part of the reason I said that, I think, was because I actually don't think the outcome of that game will end up mattering that much. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, it could be the difference between the 1 and the 5 or whatever. It could matter in terms of seeding, but ultimately, I mean, last year was a pretty stark reminder that seeding isn't everything. And as long as you just get into the playoffs, it's going to be more about what happens in the postseason than... And so the Lions' performance up to that point had given me enough confidence that this team is a Super Bowl contender. And I don't care what happens after that.
I care. I want home games.
No, I was going to say, I cared. I definitely cared. And I definitely would not have been feeling great if the Lions had outplayed Baltimore for 3.5 quarters and then lost it at the end, right? Like, there's no way I'm coming back happy from that game, even though, but that's why I was trying to convince myself.
Laura saw you tweet that and she went, "Oh, Jeremy."
But I know I'm not the only one feeling that way. There were a lot of people who were like,
no.
My God, you're exactly.
Yeah.
How are you in my brain?
Of course. But you know what it's like. Poor Laura has to sit next to me in my like over optimism, like like ridiculous, like go for it, do it, go for it. You can get it. I know you like.
Yeah.
And then the whole time she's like, "Oh, I don't like this moment. It's tense, like a normal person, like watching a game." And I'm like, "Do it.
This is what we live for." Yeah, see, there are 3 or 4 people in the chat now saying the same thing. Downgrade says, I have 2 questions. First, who is to blame for the almost delay of games? Second, was Anzalone attack Lamar too soon compared to the other linebackers, or was that the plan?
I don't know. I'd have to see.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at a specific situation to see, because like I said, when they got in the second half and there was obvious passing stuff, like they were running linebackers as the 4th DL, and so he might have been that might have been his design. I'd have to see exactly which one we're talking about, and it's the same thing with the delays. Like I don't feel like I really had. I don't know if it was the play not getting in early enough or what. I just know I didn't notice it until it was like 5 seconds left, and I was like, "You got to go."
I didn't feel like that was a constant thing in this game. Although I will.
No, they burned twice. They burned 2 timeouts.
Oh, that's right.
Those.
I do.
Yeah,
You're right.
One of them, Goff was screaming for it.
Yeah,
and I don't think Graham could hear him.
Right.
Because
I mean, that's part of it, right? Like you're away, it's a little bit harder to communicate, both from the people on the sidelines in the headset and on the field between the quarterback and the offensive lineman. So I don't know. I'm not overly concerned about it. But yeah, it's something you got to clean up. They're certainly lucky that they burned 2 timeouts in the second half, right?
Yes.
And it was pretty. They could. It was close enough where those could have mattered.
Right.
But I'm sure that's something that'll get cleaned up. I forgot about that.
Well, can't take them with you.
Yeah,
if you got to use them, you got to use them.
What do you think happens to Malik Cunningham? It's a really good question. I think they still keep him around. Like
Yep.
he's going to practice in the wide receiver room, but he'll probably also continue to be scout quarterback for when you have like a Caleb Williams week or when you have, I don't know who else is on the schedule. Jane
Tom
Daniels, I
Ken
guess.
Tom Kennedy's shaking in his boots right now over his role. Look, we've talked about this with Tom before because Tom usually is their scout
Yep.
quarterback, and then they've given some to Allen this year too. But like, um, if you can be a scout quarterback for an NFL team, that's like being a bullpen catcher for a Major League Baseball team.
Right.
Like you have a very specific role
Yep.
and you get paid a bunch of money to do it and then watch football and then watch the sport in front of you and it's a great job. But you got to be able to do it. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yep.
Sounds like Malik did very well. So,
Yeah. Was it as loud at the stadium as it seemed like on TV? JC, unfortunately, and Eric, I think you went to LA, so you can attest to this. In
yeah.
outdoor
When
stadiums, they put press boxes behind a pretty thick plexiglass, and it muffles it a ton.
crazy. Yeah.
I could not get a sense of how loud it was. Like, the stands were
San
shaking a
Fran
little
was
bit, and
the
I could
same
feel it
way.
shake.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to gauge how loud it is and to compare it. And it's one of the bigger bummers about outdoor stadiums from a press credentialed point of view because I think everyone is like that.
I have only been on my road trips. I've only been to outdoor stadiums, and so I've always been behind
Yeah.
plexiglass.
Yeah. it. I understand why they do it. One, for temperature. Two, because like you're working.
Yeah, you got
and some
yeah,
people
keep
want
all your stuff.
to be
You
quiet.
can't sit. You can't have it snowing on you while you're trying to type.
I know, but man, I wish I could just like I don't know, just
And roll the
cut a
windows
little
down.
hole in it and just like put my ears. Would have
Yeah,
been nice.
they should have it like a retractable roof where you can just lower the glass.
Yeah, that's right. Like I'm in a limo. Basketology on YouTube says Iowa State also ran the Maryland Eye often last season when Tyler was there.
There you go. Sounds like a roll thing. Good for
Yeah.
him. Good information.
Look at him! Look at him making an influence 3 games into his NFL coaching career.
Dude, they will take stuff from everybody. Everybody can contribute. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean,
They
just for him
the,
though, like
the
he's young.
the level of trust that they have in anybody that they hire is remarkable.
Yeah,
Remarkable.
it's part of the reason why everyone's clamoring to get here. Like, it's
Yeah.
not just that you want to be a part of a winning football team. It's not just the fact that you come here, you're going to get raises either here or elsewhere. But it's also, you're going to be heard. You're going to be respected. They're going to do everything they can to not just make sure you do this job as good as possible, but get you ready for the next job.
Your next one, yeah. It's almost like Dan Campbell is running a really well-run coaching staff where you can lose coordinators and just
Be okay.
be okay. And it's almost like he deserves more credit than he
Hey,
starting.
it's starting to happen.
Starting.
It's starting to happen. We wrote a whole article about it.
There's a lot of people that changed their tune this week.
St. Bob, thank you for the 28-month subscribed on Twitch. Says, looking long-term, when enough players get old enough and they have to do another, quote, retooling, please reassure me that Dan will be retained and I don't have to another head coach. I don't have to have another head coach for 20 years.
Oh God, I was looking at like the one of the fun things about doing these the breaking down the schemes and the coaches of the opponents is I get to see like who's been around for a while and blah blah blah, what their histories are and stuff like that. And I'm like looking at like Harbaugh, who's been coaching in the NFL for like 30 years and 18, and I'm like I could totally see that happening with Dan Campbell. Like, 12 years from now, he's just the guy that's still running this crazy competitive team because they have so many of the same characteristics within the organization, front office and redundancy plans and like replacement plans in place for when coaches eventually leave. And
Yep.
it's thank you. I could see it. I could see this being the case
Right.
with Campbell for a long time.
There's really no reason to believe at this point that Dan Campbell will be anywhere else but here until he doesn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, it's everything just it looks like you're watching the beginning of a, you know, what could be
You
I
gonna
don't
say
want
the
to
D
say any
word?
bad words.
You gonna
No.
say the D word?
No, but I'm saying a coaching career where he ends up being like amongst considered like one of them amongst like the great coaches to be in the NFL. Like for the Lions, he's going to break all the Lions records,
Yeah,
right? Like he's just is. We talked a
right.
little bit about like that
Yeah, he wins
last week, right?
7
But
more games. He's gonna move into fourth all time in wins
it's
for
just
Lions
he's just
coaches.
going to start picking those off, man.
He's in terms of win percentage, he's already fourth, only behind coaches who coached here 70 years ago. In terms of playoff appearances, he's already second, only behind Wayne Fonts, and one behind Wayne Fonts. So if they play 2 playoff games, he's first ever.
So I found this very interesting. I was watching Rich Eisen yesterday, and he was talking about Dan Campbell, and he said Dan Campbell should be coach of the year. And he said, here's why. You lose your coordinators, everyone's writing them off, does this.
This
All right.
this is a question later, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Adam,
okay.
we'll get to coach of the year talk in a little
Oh,
bit.
I will stop then
Okay. Okay.
because Rich's take on it, I really enjoyed.
Okay.
So I will bring up that story as we go then.
Okay. Um, we were talking about this a little bit in the Slack. This like looking at just the games coached. Dan is down there. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's eighth. He crossed over Jim Caldwell last year. Would you? I just in my mind, Jim Caldwell coached far longer than Jim Schwartz did. But that is not how it played out. Jim Schwartz played 5 years, 5 years. Oh no, my internet's unstable again. We doing okay?
Is it you or is it me?
No, it's me.
Okay.
Um,
Because it was about 10 seconds. But
okay. Either way, Dan Kimball will pass Jim Schwartz this year, but not by a lot. He'll actually 14. How many games do they have left? 14.
what?
How many games do the Lions have back?
Back. What do you mean?
Left. Sorry, I read the word back in our chat. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry.
They play 18 games. They have 15 left.
They play 17 games.
That's 18 weeks. Sorry, gosh.
They have 14 games left.
18 weeks.
So he will tie Potsy Clark for fourth most games coached by the end of the season, assuming he makes it to the end of the season.
Got it. Got it.
But yeah, to me, it's just surprising to see that Jim Schwartz still has coached longer as a Detroit Lions coach by 9 games compared to Dan Campbell.
Good old Jim Schwartz. We're going to see him this week.
We are, and better not see him leaving on the shoulders of another coach.
Oh, stop it. Jim has a very interesting background. This is his 29th season coaching in the NFL.
He coached for 5 full seasons in Detroit. Every
Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess Jim didn't quite last through his 4th. Oh, no, he made it all the way through. They just fired him at the end. My bad.
It's interesting, like, whenever you talk about, like, some of these former coaches, like how people have such varying opinions on them. Like, certain ones are universally hated. Other ones are, I think, get a raw deal. I think Schwartz he was a guy who was the right coach at the right time, coming
Yes.
off that 0-16.
Yep.
And what he gave them in those first like 3 years, maybe 4, was what the team needed. And it was a bit too big for him, I think, the job. I think he just wasn't ready for it. And the fact that he hasn't really pursued another head coaching job, I think kind of points towards maybe it wasn't a good fit. But he kind of gets a bad rap, I think. But at the time, I thought he was necessary. getting a coach like him at that time was necessary.
I was slightly surprised that he never got another opportunity to be a head coach. He's just been in DC since with the
Yeah.
Bills, the Eagles, and now the Browns.
Well,
But
some of his some of his antics were a little bit wonky.
yeah,
Like
the handshake
some of
thing.
the yeah.
Um,
But
but yeah, I mean, you look at the trajectory of the Lions under him. You know, you go from 0-16 when he takes over. He goes 2-14. I can think of another coach that had that bad of a year in his first year. They go 6-10, then they go 10-6. So like there is that upward trajectory like that we saw with Campbell, but then it immediately dropped back down. And I can't tell you what happened in 2012 and 2013 for that to drop back down to 4-12 and then 7-9. I don't remember the teams back then, but you know it's not good enough.
I think I remember, but I'm
The
not. I'm gonna
2012
double
team
check.
that lost 8 games in a row to finish the season. They were 4-4 and finished 4-12. Yeah, I don't remember how that season fell apart.
What year did you just say?
2012.
2012. They leaned on Stafford more that year than they ever had, and he wasn't ready. He threw it 727 times,
Oh my god.
the most of his career. Completed 435 passes for just short of 5,000 yards. He had just come off a 5,000 yard season, if you
Yeah.
remember the year before.
Yeah.
The problem was when he had that 5,000 yard season the year before, he threw 41 touchdowns and 16 picks. The following year, he threw 17 picks, but only 20 touchdowns. So his touchdown production was cut in half, and
Yeah.
that the offense.
Here's a fun stat about that 2012 season. Matthew Stafford only threw for 20 touchdowns, but he ran for 4. What?
Was that the season that Calvin kept getting tackled at the one?
Maybe.
It was a season
I remember
like that where he got
Yeah.
tackled at the one. I want to look it up now.
He's
just to
never,
be sure.
outside of that season, had more than 2 rushing touchdowns in a season.
2012, Calvin had 5 touchdowns.
Mm.
I feel like, and that was the year that he had almost 2,000 yards. He had 1,964 yards, 5 touchdowns. Yeah, that was the year he kept getting tackled, like at the two or at the one or whatever, right?
Yeah. I remember that.
That was
4.
exactly the approach, LJ. Calvin's down there somewhere.
I can't get over the fact that Matthew Stafford had 4 rushing yards in a season. That is hilarious to me. How many yards did he have? 126. Anyways, back to the show. I'm up on alerts. All right, yeah, let's get back to the show. We are going to try to do the same thing we did last week, which was do a second stream after this of just film breakdown stuff. I don't think we've discussed exactly what we want to do. We've talked about some options. We can do some Terrion stuff. I know there's some Terrion. What was the idea that you liked after the game? That
Two
someone
RB
sent to you?
sets.
2 RB sets.
The two RB sets. We could look at offensive line if you want. I love that.
Sure.
But I feel
Maybe-
like everybody and their mom was doing offensive line breakdowns after the game
Yeah,
because it
and-
was so good.
And let's not do that because I know that Morgan is going to work on that for the site.
Okay.
So I think maybe at the end of the second segment, once we're done with the podcast part, we'll put up a poll. And so when the time comes, throw some ideas in the chat. Not now, and then we'll decide what we'll watch.
I think
I'll
what's
like it
interesting
anyways.
about the two RB sets for me is that I just want to see what their goal was, right?
Yeah.
Like I know they weren't like massively impactful, but like what's the threat? What are you putting on tape? What are you putting on tape to keep defenses, thinking about in the future.
Yeah,
But the coverage thing, that's I'm as interested with that as I am the other.
for sure.
So either way works.
Okay. All right. Cool. Here we go. Welcome back to the Midweek Mailbag here on your Pride of Detroit podcast feed or on YouTube or on Twitch. Just search Pride of Detroit. You'll find us anywhere. Let's get to it. A lot of Terrion Arnold talk. In fact, some Dan Campbell, Terrion Arnold talk this morning on 97.1 saying, hey, we have confidence in him, but you might also see a little bit more Meek, which significant news for sure. And I think may have led to this question from Ryan Anton on Twitter, who says, do you think a move to nickel would benefit Terrion Arnold? It seems like it might fit his skill set better.
I actually don't think it would fit his skill set better. I think he's in my mind more of an outside corner, especially in this scheme. Being inside in this scheme, you need to be quick and physical. And while Terrion's physical, he's not as quick as you'd like him to be. Amik is very quick and reactionary. Brian Branch very quick and reactionary, right? But Terrion is more long term, long speed, like trying to understand the routes. Where's the guy going? But he's also can be very physical from a different angle. Like he's more physical, like after the catch. He can also go up and set the edge, as we've talked about before. But it's a different skill set when you push him into the interior, and so I actually think he's in the role that he's best suited for.
Plus, I think there's a whole, you don't want to overextend someone who's already struggling. You know, it's what they did with Ennis, right? They're like, you know what? We wanted to put some nickel on your plate, but then we realized, no, we got to scale it back. You're just going to focus on being an outside corner. And I don't think they want Terrion in the nickel long term. I'm sure a little versatility would be nice, but with him currently struggling, I don't think the answer is, okay, let's change what you're doing. It's let's just work on the stuff that you are struggling at because, listen, I know some people are coming at media because, oh my God, you told me Terrion was great in the spring. You told me he was great in training camp. What's going on? He was. We weren't lying. He's capable of doing this. We've seen it. And yes, maybe it's being aided by going up against the same lines receivers most of those practices. But I think there was enough there. The coaches certainly thought there was enough there, enough improvement in the offseason for that to carry over into the regular season. And so I think you just have to continue on that path and treat Amik as the luxury that he is, which is he can buy you time while you figure out things with Terrion. Because I don't think they're ready to give up on Terrion. I don't think this is this is the beginning of the end for Terrion. I think this is hey, we need you to be better. So in the meantime, while we get you better, we're going to throw a little Amik in there because he's someone that we know we can trust.
They're also running a lot more three linebacker sets, which limits how much you can get Amik on the field.
Yep.
And I also believe that they want to get Amik on the field as much as they, look at Terrion having some of his struggles. And so it could also be we need to find ways to get Amik playing time, as well as maybe we need to take Terrion, not put him on the field 100% of the time.
What I will find interesting is, like, what does this look like? What does it look like when Dan says, quote, literally, quote, and look, we'll probably use Amik on some stuff too. Amik's a good player. We're going to mix it up a little bit. What does that look like? Is that just like a sub package thing for Amik on the outside? Because I think when they're going to be a nickel, it's Terrion's still going to be out there. Like, they're probably almost certainly still going to have Amik in nickel when they go to nickel sets, I would imagine. I mean, the other option would be to bring in Maddox at the nickel or Rockison or whoever at the nickel and then keep Amik on the outside, but I can't imagine that's what they're going to do.
No, that's not putting your best players on the field. One thing I want to point out, if you look at, I don't know if you got a chance to see snap counts because I wrote them while you were traveling.
A little bit.
But DJ Reed took 5 snaps off. Terrion took 6 snaps off. Okay. That could be like the a introduction of kind of what it might look like,
Yeah.
right? Instead of both those guys having like they each get like a series off where they
Right.
get to like
Sure.
recharge, get their energy, talk with Shep, whatever they need to do. But it could be just as simple as that. Because like when you take, those two guys each giving up a series, now you get a Meek on this on the field, a couple more series, and then you keep a Meek out there for nickel purposes as well, and you're starting to get him worked in, and you're keeping a Meek fresh and active and involved, while also maybe taking a little bit of pressure off your outside guys.
The guard rotation coming back to Detroit in the form of cornerback rotation.
Let's
My
stop right
column.
there.
My
Let's
column.
let's
Okay, let's talk about some strategy from Monday. Paul
okay.
J asked a question that I've actually been asked after the game, and I hadn't really even thought about it in the moment. It says, "I love getting the big run in the touchdown, but from a clock/analytics perspective, should Dave Montgomery have gone down on his last touchdown run?"
Oh, at that point, you're under 2 minutes and you have a chance to go up 14 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your defense is playing well. So I understand the desire to just punch it in and say, good luck. You've only scored 21 points on us so far, or whatever it was
Mm-hmm.
at the time, 24, because they kicked that
Yes,
field goal.
correct. Yep.
You've only scored 3 touchdowns on us. Good luck getting 2 touchdowns in the last minute 50 or whatever it was.
Yeah, about that.
From an analytic standpoint, if he goes down, you're forcing the Ravens to burn all their timeouts. But if you get stopped, you are now giving Lamar the field. He probably has to go the length of the field, but he's going to have what, a minute and a half to go the length of the field, and you're only up 7.
Well, if you
So,
but you go down, you kick a field goal. If
no,
if
that's
if,
true.
if Dave Montgomery goes
That's
down,
true.
so
That's
you
true. That's true. So
basically
then you go up
you go up 10, assuming you make it, which it's an assumption at
again.
this point.
We
Like,
saw 6 block kicks
yep,
this
yep,
week, right?
yep. Um, but yeah, if everything plays out statistically as you would expect, if he goes down, let's say at the 10-yard line instead of going into the end zone, and he goes down in bounds, you force the Ravens to use all 3 of their timeouts. They still had all 3 of their timeouts, but then you get an unclocked down because they have to use it either on that play, and
Right.
then the Lions get 3
So it's
more
a
plays.
minute.
So you have about a minute, and you're up by 10, and the Ravens have no timeouts. That is a better chance to win than giving the ball back to the Ravens down 14 with a minute 40 and three timeouts. I would say. I mean, we're still talking about fractions of percentage here. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed this watching Good Morning Football like 8 times on the plane ride. Goff was screaming for him to go down.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after the game, he said, "I think I was wrong" to
Oh, he
the
did?
interviewer. Yeah, but again, that could be saving face. Like
Yeah.
that could be like, "Oh, I think I was wrong. David should have scored." You know what I mean? Like
Right.
supporting this guy type of thing.
Yeah. But it's
Uh,
an
it's
interesting thing to think about, but
From an analytic standpoint, he probably should have went down. From a we're just going to win the game standpoint, I understand going in
yeah.
to
There was all
completely.
By the way, there was also a moment in that drive in which I felt like the clock should have been running, but it wasn't. Or maybe it was the drive before. No, it was
Hmm.
after the St. Brown 4th down conversion. I know there was a holding penalty,
That's
but
what
they
stopped the
declined
clock,
it.
though.
But
It
they
doesn't
declined it. That should
when
not
that
stop the clock. Because I mean, defenses would just commit penalties to stop the clock. You
They
can't
kinda
have that
do.
loophole. I think the clock should have been running there. And I was convinced that the Ravens used a timeout and they just didn't have it on the scoreboard because the scoreboard was wrong all night. M&T Bank Stadium, get your crap together there. But anyways, I'm getting far off of the questions. Let's get back to the questions.
Okay.
Matthew asked, one of our Pride Detroit direct subscribers as well, says, is Dan Campbell chaotic or thoughtful? A lot of discussion
Oh,
on
I don't. No. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish, Matthew.
Yeah, I'll finish Matthew's thought here. Says a lot of discussion on in the fourth quarter, 4th and 2 game sealer that I was just talking about was you leave Lamar with the short field. I felt you'd rather give a short field in the hopes that if he does score, you have enough time to move back into position for a game-winning field goal. A full field likely reduces the amount of time you'd have back dramatically. I think it was a win-win, and I think Dan thought the same way. He's thoughtful.
Okay. I don't think anything Dan does is chaotic. And so I do believe he believes in analytics and he leans on those in situations. I also believe that when you are on the road against a Super Bowl team and they have a two-time MVP on the other side, you
So
play to
invincible.
win the
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You have to play to win. And so this is what he's done
Yep.
forever, right? Like the way I looked at that moment was the same way I looked at the 4th and 2 at home against the Packers last year, even when you're in field goal range. If you get it, you run the clock out, you kick the field goal, and you win. You don't get it, you're gonna look bad, but you gotta be aggressive against
Winning
good
teams.
teams.
Yep.
And so I fully support it, especially on the road. Especially on the road. I wanted to
Yeah.
see him go for that.
You know who also appreciated Dan Campbell's aggressiveness and
Who's that?
was, I would say, innately jealous of? Ravens fans.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Because
Because they had a
guess
chance to
who
do it
didn't?
against the Bills and
Yep.
didn't, and then it
And
lost in the game.
and in this game, they were
Yeah.
at like midfield and it was like a 4th and 7. You know, it wasn't a high percentage play, and they punted.
Yeah, that's because they
punted
got
late in that
sacked.
game.
Yeah, yeah. I once they punted, I knew that it was everything was leaning Lions right
Yeah,
then. That was the Aiden sack, right? Wasn't it?
I think so.
Was it? Yeah, because like those back-to-back plays really just he
Yeah,
changed everything
right.
about the game on those two plays.
And that, again, this is something that I really appreciate about Dan Campbell is that he knows his opponent so well that he knows he has to be more aggressive in those games, and it doesn't matter. Like remember 3 years ago, we're like, oh, they're being aggressive in these games because they have to. They're terrible. You know, in order to
Mhm.
beat the Rams back in 2022 or whatever year it was, and the Lions were bad, the Rams were good. They would go on to win a Super Bowl. You had to be aggressive. But you have to have that level of aggression no matter
Mhm.
where your team is at, because these are really good football teams, and you want every statistical edge that you can possibly have. And going forward is that statistical edge. I know a lot of people think it's 50-50 like, I'm tired. I know it's funny. I'm tired of the onions talk and the, oh, look, look at him being outrageous. Like, no, he's not being outrageous. These are statistical ads. You look at that next gen stats
But
tweet where they're like,
yeah,
he made the correct decision every time. This isn't balls. This is logic.
it's
So like,
but there's so many coaches that don't
yes,
have that logic or whatever you want to call it, right? Like that because if you make if that doesn't work out, it could cost you your job, right?
yeah.
And so there's a
If
lot of
your
coaches that coach
organization
scared.
sucks and doesn't
Yeah,
realize they're
well,
doing the logical things,
right. I understand that. But I'm saying there's a lot of coaches that coach scared. It has to be terrifying to coach against Dan Campbell
yeah,
because like to you put your defense out there against him and you get those 3 stops, and traditionally you get those 3 stops and you take that deep breath and you're like, okay, good. We did our job. Now we get it, or we'll get our second chance. And when you're coaching against Dan Campbell, there is no second chance. You don't get
right,
you have to man up again, and more often than not, he's going to beat you on that 4th down because they can get there. And they have proven it historically over and over and over that they can get it done on 4th downs. And so it has to be absolutely terrifying because
yeah,
it's deflating as
sure,
soon as you give up that 4th down. It was so deflating that after they gave up that 4th down, they immediately like couldn't recompose themselves. And then Monty, the next run is
yeah.
blowing open a 30-yarder, right? And so I would hate to coach against Dan, which is why I love him so much.
just to correct myself a little bit, when the Ravens punted with about 4.5 minutes in that game, it was after Nate Hutchinson sack on 1st down. It was a punt on 4th and 9 from their own 32, so that would have been a pretty aggressive punt. But I think some of the analytics pointed to them they should do it. I mean, they're down a touchdown, and if you give the ball
Yeah,
back to the Lions, they might score. Guess what
and they
happened?
did.
They did, and burnt basically 2.5 minutes off the clock. So, you have to know your opponent. And in that moment, I think it's fair to say that Dan Campbell did, and arguably John Harbaugh didn't. All right, next question here. Says from Adam O on Twitter, says, with the attitudes changing around Campbell and the coordinators, does he finally have a shot at Coach of the Year? And I find this question fascinating because I think there was a belief, and I was kind of amongst that group, that his opportunity to win Coach of the Year is gone. The Lions are no longer new. A lot of times Coach of the Year is given to a team with low expectations that exceeds expectations.
Correct.
Now the Lions, high expectations. But, like, I do think there is an angle here that's at least worth considering, because there was such a loud group of analysts, fans, whatever, that said, Detroit's done. Their window's closed. Brain drain, brain drain, brain drain. There's no chance. And now that we've seen Dan Campbell succeed so far, 3 games in, with new coordinators, there's undoubtedly a newfound appreciation for Dan Campbell himself. Will that last into January, though, is the question.
So the interesting thing is, this was the topic that was on the Rich Eisen show this week. And I thought Rich's answer was fascinating, because Rich said that Dan Campbell should absolutely be the front runner for Coach of the Year based on what he did, because of the reasons that you just said. Losing the coordinators and being able to maintain is a very impressive thing that he's performing right now. And then the counter to Rich's argument was that exactly what you said. Normally, this award goes to the upstart coach who doesn't, you don't expect anything of, and then does something. It doesn't go to the Andy Reids and the Bill Belichick's. And Rich Eisen's point was the fact that you're putting Dan Campbell in the same conversation as Andy Reid and Bill Belichick tells you everything you need to know.
That's, you know what? That's a mic drop moment right there. Because here's the thing. If Coach of the Year was being voted on tomorrow, Dan still wouldn't win it. You know who'd win it?
Indy.
Shane Steichen. 100%. 100%. It's a Colts team that didn't have expectation. You've got you're riding a quarterback very much like the Vikings last year that no one believed in, and he's like number 1 in every stat right now. Daniel Jones is having an incredible year. And that's it. It's guy above expectation. Even though there's a lot of Dan Campbell heat right now, I don't even think he would win it right now, because the unexpected team is the one that gets all the credit. Line should have gotten it beforehand, but it is it is what it is. All right, final question here as we turn the page metaphorically over to Browns week. Jacob M., one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers, says, what will be the key to moving the ball consistently against that defensive front? Establishing the run game early, maybe respect the short intermediate passes to stall the pass rush?
Yeah, I think you have to slow that pass rush down. If you just try and run into the teeth of their front, you're going to have a hard time. They're number 1 against the run in like almost everything. It's very impressive front. They're attacking. They're very gap responsible right now. And what you need to do is you need to be able to use that over aggressiveness against them, which means you getting the ball out quick. You're finding ways to be creative. Maybe like that kind of pitch play that we saw to get Gibbs outside. I don't want outside zone against these guys. I want more duo, more gap. Yep. But they're also like aggressive in stunting and stuff like that. And you're going to have to be sharp on being able to pick those stunts up as well. So yeah, attacking the intermediate level, the approach for the Lions' success on offense is always going to be at attacking the intermediate level first. And then once you attack that intermediate level, it'll start opening things up deep, and then it'll start opening things up shorter than that, and it will open up the run game as well. But it all starts with attacking the intermediate level, and so that's what I'm expecting them to do against the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, the tricky part here is like play action is scary, especially early in this game, because play action takes time. Play action, you really need to rely on a guy like Myles Garrett being slowed by play action, but he's a guy that can win fast. And if he's a guy that can win fast and you're running a play action, it means Jared Goff has his literal back to Myles Garrett for 2 seconds. And that could be the difference between, a normal play action pass and a disaster. And I mean, with Garrett almost exclusively playing over the left tackle, this is a huge Taylor Decker game. And I imagine he's probably going to have Brock Wright next to him a lot, if we're going to be completely honest. But Myles Garrett to me is just like an ultimate game changer. He can do it in an instant. He is, I still think, the best defensive player in football. And that means ball security is number one this week. From Jared, from your running backs, you got to hold on to the ball. Because the only way the Browns are going to put up points is if their defense hands them it. And so I don't schematically, I don't know what you do to find success running the ball. I think some of it is the misdirection stuff you were talking about. Maybe getting Amon-Ra and Khalif and JMO involved in the running game a little bit. Hitting the edges if you can. Ideally away from Myles Garrett. Like, run right a bunch in this game. Mm-hmm. Go behind Panay. Panay is an asset. Myles is a threat. And I know that, and I don't want to disrespect everyone else on that Browns defensive line because it's much more than just Myles Garrett. But I think plan A is make Myles Garrett a non-factor in any possible way you can. And a lot of times that just means going away from him, literally going away from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to treat him like other teams have been treating Aiden Hutchinson, and then you have to just hold up against the other guys. So, they get to the quarterback in 2.45 seconds. That's the average time to pressure. That's the fourth best in the NFL right now. The Lions, on average, don't allow pressure to 2.75, which is a little bit more in the middle. So, like, they're used to Goff is used to having to get the ball out. At the same time, he typically has the time to do so. But so the Lions, the difference between pressure and no pressure is the offensive line's ability to hold up that extra half second.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll talk more Browns later in the week for First Bite over on Pride of Detroit Direct, and of course Before the Roar, our new preview podcast with Miko and Morgan. But until then, we're going to close things out here. If you do want more from me and Erik, we're going to stay here live on YouTube and Twitch and break down some film. That is something that won't be on the podcast, but you can head on over to our Twitch or YouTube pages, or we might even throw it up there on our website, prideofdetroit.com, for all that sort of bonus content. But until then, my name is Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. His name is Erik. I think I pointed the right way this time. You can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting us. Thank you all for being awesome Lions fans. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. Gosh, we went later than I thought. When are we trying to get you out of here? 2?
2.
Okay. All right, we got some time. All right. Now, let me get to some alerts, and while I do that, I want you guys to start throwing in some ideas for what you want us to break down. And remember, we'll do a vote, and then once we do a vote and have an option or maybe two, we're going to end this stream and then fire it right back up. For Twitch, you don't have to go anywhere. YouTube, you'll probably have to head back to our, youtube.com/@Pride of Detroit. It'll be a completely different link. So that is how we'll run things. But let me run through alerts and then we'll get to it. Captain James Kirk 10-bit says, I 100% agree with the being sick of and tired of the outrageous talk. The 4th and 2 was an obvious go situation. Worst case scenario, you don't get it and you give the ball back. The Ravens have to get a touchdown by driving half the field, which almost guarantees the Lions have time to go and score to win the game. That last part I might disagree with, because remember, the Lions did only have one timeout, and a good football team would take their time if you're the Ravens in that situation. We see the Lions do it all the time at the end of the half, and sometimes you're like, why aren't you hurrying up? Well, they're doing it because they don't want any time remaining. So I would imagine if the Ravens were well coached, and generally speaking, I do think they are, I think they would milk every last second of that clock before they get in the end zone. At least try to. And then maybe even go for 2. That's how far my brain was going down. My anxiety tunnel was like, when the Ravens score, are they going to go for 2? Not if the Ravens score.
Well,
when the Ravens score, are they going to go for 2?
When they did score to get to 30, they went for 2, right?
Right, but that is that's good.
That's an analytics thing as well.
You're down 14, you score a touchdown, you always go for 2, because you can always make up for it by going for 2 the next time. But anyways, I think that was important to bring up too. Toast, thank you for the 20 months, says, I spent 10 minutes trying to figure out a question to ask here. Got nothing other than go loins, and I appreciate all the quality work you guys do. Thank you, Toast. Okay. 2 running back sets. Here's what went wrong on Jaws runs compared to Monty's. Show all the runs that were short motion. St. Brown blocks Humphrey and then play action or Humphrey. Yeah. So setting up that 4th and 2 play.
Yeah, that was set up by him blocking earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
and they fake blocked
times.
and then peeled out and they had to grab him. The blocking from the skill players in this game was sensational.
Mm-hmm.
Jamo downfield was awesome.
Kind of.
Laporta was incredible.
I'd like to look at
Really
the BFF
was.
grades of blocking from your external guys because I felt the same way, but that was only on live viewing. I have not had an opportunity to look at it again. Run blocking. Gosh, their O-line. Laporta 76.6.
Yeah.
St. Brown 70.6. Khalif 69.5. Jamo 58.9. Sure about that?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
To Slaw 30.
If you look at the what their run blocking is on the season, Amon-Ra's run blocking on the season is 82.3.
Damn. That's got to be close to first among wide receivers.
Jameson, no, it's actually right behind Jameson, who's at 82.4.
What?
Yeah, on the season.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Position.
Yeah. If you look at run blocking on the season, it's Sewell 96.4. My God, he's a monster.
Wait, what are you saying?
I'm looking at the season.
Amon-Ra for the season, his run blocking is what?
82.3. That's what it says.
PFF is weird.
I know.
That's not what it says for me at all. It says 62.8 for me.
I was on team, went to reports, and I went to run blocking, and then run blocking. Oh, my bad. I was looking at gap.
Oh.
I was looking at their gap. Okay. I was like, holy cow. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Everything's fuzzy.
We're all struggling right now. Jameson does have the 3rd best 69. Run blocking grade on the team, though.
There you go.
69.2. I'm on Raz all the way down at 62.1, but
that's malarkey.
All right.
I guess they should run more gap. They're really good at gap.
Yeah, I guess so. Wide receiver and tight end blocking. Can we look at that? I thought it was amazing. Sorry, I'm late. Still relishing in the big W. Here's a question. I always assume reporters say near the 50 or in between the 20s. It looked like the Lions beat was behind the end zone in Baltimore. Is that typical? I've only been to, I don't know, like 4 or 5 press boxes outside of Detroit. And I'd say it's almost a 50-50 split. Like in LA, I think we were in the corner.
Yeah, same in San Fran.
Same in San Fran.
We were closer to where.
I hated it,
we were a bend on the. We were a bend into the field a little bit, so maybe we were a little bit further up, but we were still real far down by the one end zone.
Yeah, the corner sucks. Like it was the worst. I felt like I couldn't watch the game well. I feel like I didn't see it well. It sucked that the scoreboard's wrong. And for the first quarter, there was nowhere on any scoreboard down in distance, which is wild. It's like such a critical piece of information that I had to use like the official Lions stat tracker to tell me what down in distance it was. And because we're in this terrible angle, like I can't tell from where I'm sitting what the down in distance is. Oh,
it's weird, but like at Ford Field, we get turned around. We're on the edge. We're still flat though.
Yeah, we're like at the 10, 15, 20 yard line.
No, we're like at the 5. I feel like
maybe.
But I feel like being flat, you just get like a totally different angle. When you're in the curve, it throws you off entirely.
It's why I'm even more frustrated that I haven't been able to watch the tape of this game because, again, I don't feel like I saw it that well.
No. Well, go watch it. Manningcast is on
No.
my agenda.
No. I don't care about Michael Phelps. I don't care about. Sorry, I
No,
don't care
I
about
don't-
Jeff Daniels.
It's not the interviews that I care about. I
I
care
don't.
about
No one cares about that. Yet it occupies like 50% of the broadcast, and it's annoying.
It does. It does. I understand. There's gonna be a lot of fast forwarding.
All right. Sorry about my soapboxing.
Rant. Oh.
All right. So sounds like a lot of you want to look at the run game, which I don't want to do too much of because again, Morgan's going to do a full breakdown of the offensive line tomorrow on the website. Do we want to look at Terrion? Like I thought that was something that a lot of people wanted to watch, but I have not. I think maybe like the media narrative has already gone too far in the other direction that people are like sick of bagging on Terrion.
I mean, I don't mind watching the second half when we didn't hear his name called a lot.
We could also look into bottling up Lamar and how they did that.
I do want to look at the 2 RB sets because that'll give us the Maryland and that'll give us.
I don't know how to cut those plays up.
Isn't there a way? Isn't there a way to have? I don't know if there is a way to do that. I'm thinking of like stuff that Colton uses,
Right?
where he can look up when there's 2 on the field.
Yeah, because NFL Pro allows you to look at when a singular player is on the field, but I don't think you can filter with 2.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Terrion for a little bit. And because that's a little negative, we should pick out maybe a second thing. And I think with Terrion, we'll do the plays that he got beat on, that everyone has seen, and kind of break down what went wrong, and then like jump to the second half and see maybe some of the plays that he wasn't targeted on. Maybe even look at some of the sacks. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll look at the sacks and see how coverage was from him on the sacks. Drew Falcon, that's why you got, if you're a Prime Vision fan, Amazon Prime's broadcast, you get the All 22 live, and it's incredible. I mean, it's a version of the All 22. It's not the standard All 22. It's basically the Skycam's version of the All 22. It's awesome. Okay.
Lions will be on that the week after Thanksgiving.
It's true. True. What else do we want to look at? Oh, 2 running back sets. Okay, we'll figure out how we can find that. So we'll start with Terrion. We'll move to looking at some of the 2 RB sets and how that worked. Some of the Maryland Eye stuff as well. Okay, we're settled on that. Zakiro a bit says, why did they not play Wingo but then use Tyreek Williams on clear pass downs trying to stunt? We talked a little bit about Wingo earlier in the show, and I think part of it is his run defense isn't quite there yet, and that clearly was like goal number 1 of this game. But Tyreek in pass rush situations, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't.
I don't really either,
that
and I
closely.
want to look at how many pass rushing snaps he had in this game. Tyreek, 17. So a little bit more than I expected. But at the same time, part of that is like, that's all the Ravens did in the second half. The only opportunities were, and the Lions don't know that, right? The Lions don't know that they're not going to run the ball much at all in the second half, and they don't. So I think part of that, it might just be that. I can't say I recall him doing stunts in particular. Who's Justice Haynes?
They're back up.
Who's backup?
Ravens, right?
Can we
Wasn't
have
he?
backup of Justin
Oh,
Haynes?
no,
75-yard
jeez.
touchdown? Who is that? Is that Michigan State's quarterback? Is that? Oh, it's
No,
Michigan's.
that's
That's Michigan's running back. I'm an
Michigan's
idiot.
running back. I was thinking.
Look at
I
me
was
being
thinking,
a Wolverine fan.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I
Gosh,
watched that whole
Hill.
game too.
Hill.
All right. Okay. Let's end the stream there. We're going to come right back again. If you're on Twitch, you don't need to
Thank
go
you.
anywhere. You can just refresh in like a minute. If you're on YouTube, go back to youtube.com/@Pride of Detroit. Wait about a minute or two, and a new stream will pop up. Okay, great. Thanks to everybody who's watching on replay.